The 1960s was a time of civil unrest in the United States. The University of Wyoming in Laramie was unable to escape the implications of the growing presence of social movements. 14 players on the football team took the role of becoming leaders of a social movement on the university campus when they chose to act on their behalf, rather than follow the established rules and norms. The 14 black football players at the University of Wyoming stood up against the doctrine they viewed to be discriminatory, and they went up against head coach Lloyd Eaton and his coaching philosophy, which led to the incident known as the Black 14.
As an institution, the Mormon Church was recognized as one that significantly influenced the ideals and actions of its followers. Communities around the country chose to engage in conflict with the Mormon Church, particularly when facing one another through sporting events. The doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints prohibited the ascension of blacks into the priesthood, which caused a great deal of resistance from communities around the country. The black football players at the University of Wyoming desired to take a stand against the church doctrine they saw to be discriminatory. Upon deciding to engage in a social demonstration on the football field, the players added to the growing protest against the Mormon Church, its ideologies, and doctrine. The Black Student Alliance, BSA, was recognized as a registered student organization at the University of Wyoming as the first minority student-led group in April 1969. The student who sponsored the organization was leader Willie S. Black. One of the organization's goals was to create awareness of discrimination. The Black Student Alliance worked closely with the university student newspaper, The Branding Iron, to publicize campus incidents of discrimination. In a meeting of the Black Student Alliance on October 13th, leader Willie Black informed members about the regulations and policies of the Mormon Church, specifically that blacks were not prohibited from the priesthood. Black also explained that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was a sponsor of Brigham Young University, a team that was scheduled to play against the Wyoming Cowboys the following week. 3 days later, Black sent letters to officials at the University of Wyoming, BYU, the Western Athletic Conference Commissioner, and the President of the Mormon Church concerning the policies of the church and how they impacted the players and students at the University of Wyoming. The letters advocated for the termination of the relationship between the University of Wyoming and BYU so long as the Mormon Church continued its policy prohibiting blacks from ascending to priesthood. The BSA thought dissolution of the association between UW and BYU would illustrate the seriousness of the discrimination. 2 days before the game against BYU, the Black Student Alliance hand-delivered letters to the offices of President Carlson, Athletic Director Jacoby, and Coach Eaton, demanding changes to the current relationship with BYU. The letter included arguments pushing students and faculty members of all races to protest the discriminatory policies enforced by BYU as the Mormon Church funded it. Joe Williams, a black tri-captain of the football team, approached Coach Eaton following practice on Thursday, October 16th. He informed Coach Eaton that 13 other black players wanted to wear black armbands during the game against BYU as an act of silent protest against the policies of the LDS Church because they felt them to be discriminatory. Coach Eaton told Williams that he would not allow it and suggested the players take out their frustration against BYU on the football field. The players decided to wear the armbands to Eaton's office the following day in an effort to convince him to allow them to protest in that manner. Tony Gibson, one of the black players, expressed his passion and rationale for protesting. Students on the campus were planning a demonstration against the Mormon policies, and we voted that we would take part in that demonstration, and our part was wearing black armbands if Coach Eaton would let us. If Eaton didn't let us, we would just play the game. That's the part that was never brought out enough after the fact. Upon arrival to Coach Eaton's office, the team was taken to the field house. Coach Eaton told the players, "Fellas, I'm going to save you a lot of time and trouble. You're through. As of now, you are no longer Wyoming Cowboy football players." Jerry Holland, president of the University of Wyoming Board of Trustees, called an emergency meeting on October 17th to discuss the event known as the Black 14 incident. The duration of the meeting was 7.5 hours, concluding at 3:30 a.m. without a resolution. Governor Hathaway traveled from Cheyenne to Laramie to engage in conversations surrounding the encounters with Coach Eaton and the 14 black players. Eaton declined to attend. President Carlson and Governor Hathaway later went to Coach Eaton's home to meet with him there. Despite the absence of Eaton, the 14 players attended the meeting. They did not have legal representation, and many of the players were minors under the law. Many of the players remember the meeting with Coach Eaton to the extent that they were dismissed from the team for asking permission to act within their First Amendment right to express themselves politically. Formal support of the students materialized when the Associated Students of the University of Wyoming Student Senate, ASUW, held an emergency session to vote on a resolution introduced on October 18th, condemning the actions of Coach Lloyd Eaton and the Board of Trustees. The ASUW found the 14 black students to have acted on a matter of conscience with restraint, with moderation, and with responsibility. Due to the power of the ASUW Student Senate, it held Coach Eaton and the Board of Trustees accountable by requesting that they host an open forum in which the 14 black students would be able to discuss their disapproval of the racial policies of Brigham Young University by threatening to withhold the athletic department funds, as well as reserving the right to remove theories and individuals which were liable for the situation. A civil lawsuit was filed on October 20th in the District Court in Cheyenne. The suit named the State of Wyoming, the University of Wyoming Board of Trustees, President Carlson, and Lloyd Eaton as defendants. The complaint filed in the district court included a description of the dismissal of the 14 black players and explained the circumstances under which they had been deprived of their First Amendment right to peaceably demonstrate under the Constitution of the United States. The state of Wyoming decided that none of the previous decisions, such as Tinker v. Des Moines, applied to the issues presented in Williams v. Eaton because there were religious aspects at play. The argument was that if the 14 blacks had been permitted to wear the armbands as a form of protest against BYU, and in effect the Mormon Church, the action would have served the effect of supporting a cause directed against a religious organization. District Court Judge Ewing T. Kerr dismissed the case on March 23, 1970, on the arguments submitted by the defendants. Judge Kerr explained that had the athletes worn the armbands in the game against BYU, against Eaton's instructions, the action would have violated the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment right to freedom of the establishment of religion, as well as the standard of separation of church and state. After the U.S. 10th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the lower court's decision to dismiss the case on March 14, 1972, the players decided to not appeal the decision to the United States Supreme Court. The consequences of the court's decision made an impact not only on the community, but also on the university and its policies. The points described during the progression of the suit fueled the tensions of the civil rights movement. The players' loss affected the perceptions of the student rights and privileges on university campuses, but also in the interpretation of the role of a university in protecting First Amendment rights. Students have additional rights provided to them by the Joint Statement of Rights and Freedom of Students, in addition to those granted by the U.S. Constitution. All students have the same rights of free speech provided by the First Amendment, including athletes. Standards of conduct expected of students states, the student should be as free as possible from imposed limitations that have no direct relevance to his education. Disciplinary proceedings should be instituted only for violations of standards of conduct formulated with significant student participation and published in advance through such means as a student handbook or a generally available body of institutional regulations. It seemed as though the campus would never be the same because it had seen the impact of the civil rights movement. However, the impact is no longer prevalent. The lack of recognition and understanding of what occurred on the UW campus in 1969 is a testament to the weak, short-lasting impression and irrelevance of the protest on current students. It is possible that the demonstration led by the 14 black student football players saw a lack of interest as the years progressed because the students eventually lost in the conflict against Coach Eaton and the administration. If they had won, there would have been more outreach to the students, illustrating the power students have to promote change and protect the liberties they have been given. Currently, there is a memorial statue in the basement of the Student Union near the center of the UW campus recognizing the efforts of the Black 14. It commemorates the 14 athletes who participated and illustrates the impact the event had on the rights and freedoms of students.
Today, however, there is a lack of knowledge and understanding of the event, as well as a lack of concern for the protection and privileges the students have. I distributed a survey to 120 students on the University of Wyoming campus to further understand the extent to which the students understand the Black 14 incident and its implications. The survey included the following questions.
The wordings of questions provoke a variety of responses. The nature of the responses was influenced by the previous understanding the students had of the event and who were the major players. Non-attitudes arise when a respondent does not have a real opinion on a specific issue. I was careful in the wording of questions and offered a filter answer. The first two questions were included to locate the non-attitudes. The responses to the three subsequent questions illustrated the understanding the students have regarding their rights and privileges as students. Of the 120 surveys distributed, only 80 respondents filled out and returned them. This action in itself illustrates the lack of interest in engaging in an educational opportunity, as well as a lack of willingness to participate in a survey about an event of which they may not be well informed. Students know little about the event, and even less about its relevance to the University of Wyoming history. Figure 1 demonstrates the overwhelming percentage of current students who have little to no recognition of the Black 14. The foundation established from Figure 1 gives background information to more adequately understand the perceptions and mentality of UW students, in that the primary responses show there is no recognition of an influential event in campus history, especially one that pertains to the rights and privileges of students. Figure 1 showed that 86.25% of respondents had little to no recognition of the incident. Of the 13.75% of students who claimed to have a vague understanding of the Black 14, the second question provided those students the opportunity to describe what occurred. From a coding system created to rate the scores, the responses were separated according to the following criteria. A correct answer was one that included an accurate description of what occurred. A significant majority of students included incorrect data or had no idea of what occurred. These responses made up 70% of the students surveyed. The second largest subgrouping of students was 16.25% of respondents who had most of the details correctly documented or were completely correct. The other 13.75% had a general idea of the details of what occurred. This data supports the notion from question 1 by eliminating the non-attitudes and more specifically illustrates that there is a severe lack of understanding of the event. The third question in the survey gave respondents the ability to express interest in learning more about the details of the Black 14 through a variety of avenues. Figure 2 illustrates that many students recognized the term referencing an event that occurred on the University of Wyoming campus and that they would be interested in gleaning the opportunity to further understand what occurred. There is a distribution of suggestions made by the students as to specific avenues through which they would be willing to actively pursue the attainment of knowledge. More respondents offered the response that they would be interested in learning more, but did not propose a suggestion of a medium through which they would like to receive the information. While only 11.25% of respondents specified they would prefer to learn more through an exhibit, it was the specified option that appeared most. It is interesting to note that a majority of students expressed interest in looking into the details of the incident and would be willing to take advantage of an opportunity to learn more if it were offered. However, those who stated they would be interested did not include a specific suggestion of how they would like to attain the material. The most surprising of the responses appeared on questions 4 and 5, in that of those students who produced answers regarding the details of what occurred in October 1969 and expressed an interest in learning more about the incident, there was a staggering number of students who have minimal conceptualization of their rights and privileges on the UW campus. Figures 3 and 4 are included to illustrate the connection between the lack of recognition of a change in perception and application of student rights and privileges to the current state of students' awareness in their freedoms of campus. Figure 3 shows that 91.25% of respondents have no conception of the impact of the Black 14 on the rights and privileges of students on the UW campus, which is not surprising, as 86.25% responded to question 1 that they did not have any recognition of the incident. Figure 4, however, shows that there is a shallow understanding of the specific freedoms students have to exercise their First Amendment rights. Figure 4 shows a small percentage of students included responses explaining that there is a connection to student rights of free speech, but recognizes there are limitations. There is no recognition, though, to the state of student privileges and the limitations based on historical events. The study conducted produced information used to create a qualitative analysis of the state of mind the student body currently entertains, one that is uninformed and apathetic. Of the students surveyed, 70% had no idea as to what occurred during the Black 14, nor had any conception as to its importance and lasting impression on the University of Wyoming or on their rights and privileges as students. The administration and academic community at the University of Wyoming must take action to educate and apply the lessons gleaned from the events that occurred during and as a result of the Black 14, whether it is through a course, a seminar, or an exhibit.
Regardless of the avenue by which the information is transmitted, there is a serious need for students to understand the implications of the incident and how their rights and privileges are afforded them. It is the responsibility of the now informed members of the UW community to encourage others to engage in learning opportunities and to propose suggestions to their departments and functioning organizations to provide prospects to expand students' horizons.